The Social Security Trust Fund depletion date just moved up again. The Congressional Budget Office updated their projection in March of 2026, and the new date is 2032, a year sooner than originally projected, and not sometime in the mid-2030s, 6 years from now. That changes some things, and if you're within a decade of retirement, it changes them for you specifically. If you watched my video yesterday, you have the 2026 updates, the COLA, the earnings test, and the new senior deduction. That video is linked in the description below. This video goes deeper because behind the annual changes, there's a larger story unfolding, one that affects when you claim, how you structure your income, and how much weight you can actually put on Social Security in your overall retirement plan. Today, we look at what the official projections say, what Congress has and hasn't done, what reform proposals are actually in play, and most importantly, how to build a retirement that doesn't require you to predict what's going to happen next. No politics here, just the honest picture and what to do with it. I want to start with the source that carries the most authority on this topic, the 2025 Social Security Trustees Report. This is the official annual report to Congress from the people who manage the trust fund. It is not a political document. It is an actuarial one. Here's what it says. The Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund, the fund that pays your retirement benefits, was projected in that report to be depleted in 2033, at which point continuing program income would be sufficient to pay 77% of scheduled benefits. But that report came out before two major developments hit the numbers. Since then, the Congressional Budget Office released updated projections in March of 2026, moving that depletion date to 2032, a full year sooner. And the projected benefit cut at depletion has been revised upward as well. The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget now estimates an across-the-board cut of 24% when the fund runs dry. The Congressional Budget Office's own estimate is closer to 28%. So the honest picture as of right now, if Congress does absolutely nothing, the trust fund depletes in 2032, 6 years from now as of the date of this video. And every beneficiary faces automatic benefit reduction somewhere between 23 and 28%. Now, that's not a complete catastrophe. Social Security does not disappear. Payroll taxes will keep coming in, but it would be devastating for many seniors who depend largely or entirely on Social Security for their living expenses. Now, let me answer the question I know some of you are already asking. Does this affect only people who haven't claimed yet? No. And that is precisely why I made this video, because this isn't just a conversation for people who haven't claimed yet. This is a conversation that will impact everyone in retirement. Under current law, if the trust fund depletes and Congress has not acted, the Social Security Administration is legally required to limit payments to the amount that's coming in from payroll taxes. That reduction applies across the board to every beneficiary, regardless of age, income, or how long they've already been collecting. Someone who has been receiving Social Security for 15 years faces the same automatic cut as someone who filed last month. There is no grandfather protection in the current statute. Think about what that means in real terms. If you're 65 today, you'll be 71 in 2032, already collecting, already dependent on that income, and fully exposed to a reduction you didn't plan for and can't easily absorb at that stage of life. The only path to protection for current recipients is congressional action. And any realistic fix would almost certainly prioritize people already in the system. That's the political path of least resistance, but almost certainly is only an assumption. It cannot be relied upon. And if Congress acts in time, has not always been the way the story goes. This is why I keep coming back to resilience as a design choice, not because the worst case scenario is inevitable. It isn't. But because a retirement plan that can only survive one outcome isn't really a plan. It's a bet, and possibly a very poor one. So how did we get here faster than expected? Three forces accelerated the timeline, and understanding them matters for how you read the political debate going forward. First, demographics. We are currently in what demographers call peak 65, the period from 2024 to 2027 in which more than 4.1 million Americans are turning 65 each year, the largest surge of retirements in our nation's history. The worker to beneficiary ratio that funds the whole system stood at more than 5 workers per beneficiary in 1960. Today, it's 3 to 1. By mid-century, it's projected to fall below 2.5 to 1. That is not a political failure, it's a demographic reality, and these data points have been visible in the projections for decades. Second, the Social Security Fairness Act signed into law in January of 2025. This law eliminated 2 provisions that had reduced benefits for certain public employees, teachers, firefighters, government workers, who also had pensions from jobs not covered by Social Security. For those individuals, this was meaningful relief. It did not benefit the trust fund, however, just the opposite. The trustees estimate it added nearly $200 billion to the program's already large shortfall over the next 10 years alone, accounting for nearly half of the worsened outlook in the 2025 report. Third, the One Big Beautiful Bill signed on July 4th of 2025. I covered this deduction in detail in yesterday's video. You'll find it here. The new $6,000 senior reduction, how it works and what it doesn't do. But here's the piece I want you to understand today. By reducing the income taxes that seniors pay on their Social Security benefits, the law also reduced the amount of revenue flowing back into the trust fund. The Social Security Administration's chief actuary confirmed that the bill will advance the depletion date from 2033 to 2032 and cost the trust funds approximately $169 billion over 10 years. This is the feedback loop worth sitting with. A short-term tax benefit for current retirees is partly funded by pulling forward a larger permanent problem for all future ones. A senior who is 70 today and benefits from this deduction will, upon turning 76 in 2032, be subject to the projected benefit reduction that the deduction helped accelerate. That's not a reason to avoid taking the deduction. It is a reason to understand the full picture. And there's a fourth force that didn't exist when the 2025 report was written: economic headwinds. The gross domestic product number, which is the total market value of all final goods and services produced within the country in a specific time period, and serves as a comprehensive scorecard of the country's economic health, GDP growth slowed to 1.4% in the fourth quarter of 2025. The unemployment rate has drifted to 4.3% as of March 2026. Slower growth and a softening labor market mean slower payroll tax inflows, exactly the wrong direction when the trust fund is already under pressure. Now let's talk about what reform might look like. This conversation is active in Washington right now, and some proposals are more relevant to your planning than others. The most discussed options fall into 3 categories. Higher payroll taxes. Social Security is currently taxed on wages up to $184,500 $500. Raising or eliminating that cap is one of the most frequently proposed solutions. It doesn't directly affect retirees already out of the workforce, but it matters to anyone still working, and it's central to the policy debate. Benefit adjustments. Various proposals involve changing how benefits are calculated, when they can be claimed, or how they grow over time. The most discussed is gradually raising the full retirement age beyond 67, which would effectively reduce lifetime benefits for future retirees who don't delay claiming. Means testing or benefit caps. The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget put forward what's called the six-figure limit, a proposal to cap the maximum Social Security benefit a couple can receive at $100,000 per year. Right now, this would affect only the very top of the beneficiary distribution, but over time, as benefits rise with wages and inflation, the reach of any such cap tends to expand. AARP has pushed back on this direction, warning that benefit caps risk becoming a backdoor to broader cuts. This discussion is worth watching. What the experts largely agree on is this: the longer policymakers wait, the fewer options remain, and the harder it becomes to avoid abrupt changes that give workers and retirees little time to prepare. So, what does this mean for your retirement design? Here's my honest framing. Social Security as a program is not going away. The political will to eliminate it just simply does not exist. What is genuinely uncertain is the benefit level, and that uncertainty is real enough to deserve a place in your retirement planning. So here's how I think about this with the people with whom I work. First, know your number, and then stress test it. What is your projected Social Security benefit? You can find this on your statement at ssa.gov. Now ask, what would your monthly budget look like if that number were 20% to 25% lower? That's not a prediction, it's a planning exercise. If that reduction would fundamentally alter your retirement, that's important information to have. If you haven't built in enough of a margin so that it's simply an inconvenience rather than a crisis, that's also important information. And it tells you something about the resilience of your plan. Second, think carefully about your claiming strategy, especially now. If you're approaching eligibility, the decision about when to claim is one of the most consequential in your retirement design. Delaying to 70, if your health and finances allow, maximizes your monthly benefit. And if Congress eventually does reduce benefits, a larger base amount means you're better positioned than if you claimed early on with a smaller one. This is not a generic decision. It's not one size fits all. Please work through it with a fee-only fiduciary advisor who can model your specific numbers. There's a link in the description to where you can find one. Third, don't build your retirement on a single leg. Social Security was designed to be just one income stream among several, not the whole foundation. If it's currently carrying more weight than it should in your plan, this is the moment to look at what else could be built alongside it. Investment income, rental income, part-time work, a strategic housing decision that frees up capital. Any of these, or a combination, can reduce your dependence on a single system working out exactly as projected. Fourth, this is the design mode reframe I always come back to. The most resilient retirements aren't built on perfect predictions. They're built on plans with enough flexibility to hold through more than one version of the future, because certainty was never really on the table. What is always on the table is design. One more thing, if you watched yesterday's video, I want to flag something. The trust fund section referenced a depletion date of 2033 to 2035 and a potential benefit cut of roughly 23%. Based on the Congressional Budget Office's March 2026 update, those numbers should read 2032 and 24 to 28%. I've pinned a correction in the comments of that video. Go check it if you shared it with anyone. Now, for anything involving your specific Social Security strategy, your tax picture, or how your benefits fit into your overall retirement income plan, please work with a fee-only fiduciary advisor. If this raised questions you want to think through in the context of your own plan, I'd love to work with you. I have the link to book a one-on-one consultation in the description below. And if this was useful, please share it. There are a lot of people right now making permanent decisions based on incomplete information. The more of us who understand the real picture, the better. I'll see you in the next one.